Some of the comics my mom let me keep include some early Marvel anthology series. Now, I've pulled out a few from my 1960s long box. Stay tuned.
Anachronic.
Hi, comic book guys and gals. I'm Joe. Welcome to Anachronic Comics. Now, longtime subscribers to this channel are aware that when my family moved out of our apartment in New York City in May of 1969, I had to get rid of about half of my comics. I have some great comics I kept, but have no clue what ended up in the garbage. This is the third video in the series that I call The Comics My Mom Let Me Keep. The first was about Silver Age Flash, and the second, Silver Age Thor. Links to these will be in the description and the end cards. Now, the first ongoing anthology series put out by Marvel was Fantasy Masterpieces. Initially, it was a standard-sized 12-cent anthology reprinting Marvel's pre-superhero monster and science fiction stories. As a kid in the 60s, I went to the movies and I watched the original Godzilla and the original Rodan, and Star Trek, the original series, was all we guys would talk about. So this anthology series was right up my alley. So, Fantasy Masterpieces #1 was originally published in February of 1966 with stories written and or drawn by some of the greats: Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, Don Heck, Joe Sinnott, and Dick Ayers, to name a few. But there was one story in that issue that became one of my all-time favorites: Those Who Change. It may have been the first story in comics that foretold the dangers of going back in time. The story was written by Stan Lee, and the art was by Steve Ditko. It originally appeared in Amazing Fantasy #10, of which I actually have a copy. In this issue, there's also an article by Stan the Man on the inside front cover where he does intros for all the stories. Let's see what he said about Ditko.
Sturdy Steve Ditko is considered by many pros to be an artist's artist. An imaginative, inventive perfectionist, he combines the skill of a master storyteller with the eye of a dazzling designer. From his earliest fantasy classics of many years ago to his widely acclaimed Spider-Man and Doctor Strange epics of today, Steve's style is as enjoyable as it is original.
Now, the story involves two scientists doing some time travel experiments. Another scientist warns them that their experiments are dangerous and could alter history. Of course, they ignore him, believing that the past cannot be changed. So they send the camera back to the earliest beginnings of life. And the camera hits a lizard-like creature that's just emerging from a primordial ooze, forcing it back into the water. So when the scientists recover the camera in their present day and examine its records, they state, quote, "The professor was wrong. Nothing has changed. We knew that the present could never be affected by what happens in the past, and we were right as usual." Then the last panel shows the two scientists are now lizard creatures. So the story kept me up at night wondering if I would wake up in the next morning as a lizard, a bird, or whatever else. Now, Fantasy Masterpieces #2, with a cover date of April 1966, is considered a key, perhaps because it reprints Strange Tales #89 from October of 1961 that introduced Fin Fang Foom. Although first appearing in Marvel's pre-superhero period, made his way into the superhero genre, eventually reappearing in Marvel continuity. I think it was in Legion of Night, and then making multiple appearances in Iron Man. Fin Fang Foom is anticipated to make its way, or his way, into the MCU. Now, Fin Fang Foom was written by Stan Lee and drawn by Jack Kirby. As the story goes, Fin Fang Foom is awakened from dormancy in a tomb by Chen, a teenager whose homeland is under threat by the communist Chinese. Chen provokes Foom and the dragon chases him. Chen leads him straight into the communist camp, and Foom promptly destroys it, which was Chen's goal. Chen then leads Fin Fan Foom back into his tomb, where he uses an herb to return Foom to sleep. Now, with issue number 3 from June 1966, the comic book was expanded into a 25-cent giant, adding reprints from Golden Age superhero stories from Marvel's 1960s iteration, which was Timely Comics. And the focus was on Captain America. Fantasy Masterpieces 3 has a cover date of June 1966 and includes 2 Captain America stories originally presented in Captain America number 3 from 1941. The first, The Hunchback of Hollywood and the Movie Murder. The second was The Weird Case of the Plundering Butterfly and the Ancient Mummies. Extremely long titles. Fantasy Masterpieces 4 from August 1966 includes 3 reprints from Captain America number 4, which originally was published in June 1941, and monster stories from Strange Tales and Tales to Astonish from 1960. The main story pits Captain America and Bucky against Ivan the Terrible. Something interesting in this 1941 story is that Cap and Bucky help a princess imprisoned by Ivan the Terrible to escape and assist her father, the rightful king, to regain his throne. So what's so interesting? The princess's name is Betty Ross, and her father's name is Peter Ross. Modern names for a medieval king. At the end, you find out it was all a dream. Yet these names or parts appear later in superhero Marvel comics. It seems that Stan pulled these names from past comics. Now, Fantasy Masterpieces 5, with a cover date of October 1966, contains stories from Captain America 5 from July of 1941. The Ringmaster of Death, The Gruesome Secret of the Dragon of Doom, and Killers of the Buns. Sorry. There were also reprints from Journey into Mystery number 75 from 1961, Strange Tales number 80 from 1961, and Astonish from May of 1962. Also, each page has a footer announcing Marvel's cartoons on television. So the main story is The Ringmaster of Death. The Ringmaster was a Nazi looking to assassinate a general. This was the Ringmaster's first appearance. His next mention was some 37 years later in Marvel 2-in-1, in a story called Big Top Bandits, carrying the Thing and Iceman, who, with some help from Giant Man, win the day. However, the Ringmaster in Marvel 2-in-1 wasn't the original Ringmaster, but his son. I guess like father, like son. Fantasy Masterpieces 6 from December 1966 contains reprints from Captain America number 7 from October 1941 and number 10 from January 1942, along with stories from Journey into Mystery 64 from 1961, Tales of Suspense number 33 from 1962, and Strange Tales number 90 from 1960. The story, The Red Skull, from Captain America 7, reprints the Red Skull's first appearance. The final issue I found in my 1960s long box is Fantasy Masterpieces 7, with a cover date of February 1967. Now, I think this is my favorite issue of the 7 because it expands the contents to include both the Golden Age Submariner and Golden Age Human Torch in a reprint of The Human Torch and the Submariner Meet from Marvel Mystery Comics number 8 from 1940. This was my introduction to the Golden Age version of these characters. In this issue was also a solo Golden Age Submariner story and a great Captain America story from Cap number 7 from 1941 entitled Death Loads the Bases, which includes some thinly veiled baseball teams called the Brooklyn Badgers, the Boston Blue Sox, with games being played at Wrigley with two G's Stadium. Cap and Bucky take the fields to solve a murder and catch the culprit. So Fantasy Masterpieces ran 11 issues from February 1966 to October 1967 before being renamed Marvel Superheroes with number 12 in December 1967. I hope you enjoyed this trip into my comics past and the comics my mom let me keep. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and share the video with your friends. I'm planning more of these sojourns into my past collection, so if you haven't already subscribed, do so you don't miss those and the rest of the content of this channel. Thanks for watching, be well, and I'll see you soon.